We've all heard the saying, where focus goes, energy flows. And if the types of conversations that we're having with the people around us and the energy around that is one of doom and gloom, guess what? That's where our focus, that's where our energy, that's where all of that is ploughed into. And we all may have heard the saying, you are the sum total of the 5 people that you spend most time with. You are the sum total of the 5 people that you spend most time with. But you see, I would probably alter that saying a little bit, I should say. I would alter that saying to say, you are the sum total of the 5 people you spend most emotional time with. Emotional time. And that means who you give your emotion to. Your anger, your worry, your doubt, your fear, your frustration, your joy, your happiness, your confidence, your love, your peace. All these emotions, where do you give them? Who do you give them to? Because some of us, for example, and this is what really made me come to this conclusion. Some of us, for example, we're spending, 8 hours a day at work with Sally, Sue, Simon and Sandra. And quite frankly, they are the sum total of the 4 of the 5 people I spend most time with, but I don't really care for their opinion, don't really care for their parts. I get along with them because it's at work and that's that. But you see, where I give a lot of emotion is to my husband or wife, where I give a lot of emotion is to my kids, where I give a lot of emotion to is some of my work colleagues who I value their opinion about. And that's really what matters here. That's really what matters. Because if the environment where I'm giving my emotions to is one of doom and gloom and dread and worry and doubt and fear, then I'm only going to buy into that. This is the saying I always use with clients. It's like you and your 4 most emotionally connected friends. If you're on a journey to lose weight, but they are emotionally at a fast food restaurant, or physically at a fast food restaurant, it's going to be very hard to lose that weight. Why? Because as much as you love them, as much as you're headstrong, as much as you're so focused on what you need to do, which is to lose weight, you're in an environment there where people want to hang out at fast food restaurants. That's where they are emotionally. That's the analogy I'm giving here for people who talk about fear and worry and doubt and dread and problems the whole time, and they're not in a solution-based thinking environment. That's where we want to give our emotion. That's where we want to give our energy and our focus, to the solution-based thinking. You should spend 5% of your time, 5% of your time dissecting and analysing what the problem is. 95% of your time focusing on solutions. This is where what I do is drastically different from what happens in therapy. In therapy, traditional therapies, you are spending 95% of your time talking about the problem and 5% solution. I do the complete opposite. I get an understanding very early on of what the problem is, then we're all solution focused, baby. Because that's where the results are going to be. But let me bring this back on brand. If the types of conversations that you're holding most to those that you're emotionally connected to around you is one of fear, worry, doubt, dread, and ultimately doom and gloom the whole time, we're never going to feel like we're really being elevated. We're never going to feel like we're growing, we're expanding, we're enhancing, we're empowering ourselves in loving ways, because the environment is one where we can't thrive. And so you see, the name of this particular episode is around creating your mastermind alliance. And the word mastermind alliance, I believe now, I got from a book that I read, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. It's a self-development book. Some of you listening to this podcast might have read it. And he spoke about his mastermind alliance. And it was very similar to what I'm talking to you about here, although I've expanded on that subject, because I care about the emotions and where people are emotionally. And ultimately, this is where I'm saying, if your mastermind alliance is buried in the people who want to talk about what's wrong all the time, I want to talk about the problems. I want to talk about the issues that are always getting them down and not focused on solutions. You might be on your own journey, but you're always going to feel like you're taking 3 steps forward and 2 steps back. Because when you go to Sally or Sue or Sandra or Steve or whoever it is that you're going to emotionally conversate with, they're still going to be in the fast food restaurant analogy. They're still going to be in that environment wondering why they're not losing weight. They're still going to be in that environment wondering why their problems are still there, whilst you're busy trying to focus on ahead of your goals. We need to surround ourselves with people who want to emotionally be on the same level as what we are. It doesn't mean they've got the exact same goals. Doesn't mean that they've necessarily got the same specific problem that they're looking to solve. What it means is that you're in an environment where people are emotionally connected through solutions, through focus of growing, through focus of expanding. This can't be underestimated. This cannot be underestimated. And I'm going to share with you some of my journey with this in this podcast, because some of you are already sitting there behind the screen, whether you're on YouTube or Spotify, wherever you're listening to me, and you're nodding your head and you're like, yeah, you know what, Matt, this makes sense. This makes sense. If I think about it, I'm just surrounded by negativity all the time. This makes sense. I want to be positive, but I'm just surrounded by negativity. Well, wonderful. Well done for analysing that. Well done for understanding that. But it doesn't stop there. It absolutely doesn't stop there. What needs to happen is that we need to create that environment. Because you see, here's the truth. Here's the truth. We have friends, we have family, we have people closest to us who we love dearly. Absolutely love dearly. And you see, I often get people speak to me, whether it's in private messaging or conversations or whatever it may be, and they'll say, my mum, my dad, my aunt, my uncle, my nan, my granddad, my brother, my sister, they're negative in my life, they're bad energy, they always bring me down, this and that, I've had to cut them out of my life. Now, let me be very clear, this isn't my type of conversation for you, especially on this type of platform, for me to be saying to you that you should or shouldn't be doing anything like that. Absolutely not. You know, everyone can make their own decisions in that area about what's right for them. But you see, the reason of why I'm saying this to you is because we love our families, we love our friends. But where is the value of what they add? For example, my mum might be great when I've got a problem in my life. My dad might be great when I'm focused on something to do with business. My sister might be great for relationship advice. My uncle might be great for things around my physical health. But you see, what we do as humans generally is we go to one or a select few people for the whole mould of what we're after. So I only go to mum for every single issue, i.e. physical health, i.e. problem, i.e. business, i.e. finances, i.e. whatever else it may be. I only go to dad for all of those things too. And you see, whilst we love our parents, and this is where I want to be clear, I'm not just talking about parents here, I'm talking about friends, I'm talking about your social circle, I'm talking about whoever it is where you go to for your emotional connection in this way. Whilst it's incredibly important to have that supportive network, and friends and family, we're blessed to have that around us. It's a case of understanding, what am I getting emotionally from this conversation in this area? Now, this is where I'm diving into this a little bit. For example, let's say, and I don't want to put a label on this, but let's say person X in my life, I am going to them because I have got a problem with my anxiety. And I'm struggling with anxiety in my life, and I go to person X. Now, I go to person X because I've always gone to person X, and person X has always been the one that's helped me. Great. But see, here's the thing. I'm still struggling with this trait of anxiety the same way that I did 5 years ago. And person X, as loving and supportive of that as they are in my life, and I always would want that, ultimately they only know as much as what they know in that area. They only know as much as what they know, and they give me the love and support and the guidance and the care that I need. but ultimately they don't have the results in the area that I want. And see, where so many people fall down with this is, as I talked about in the first instance, they're surrounding themselves with an energy that isn't great, so which we need to shift, and I'll come back to, but also they're conversating and emotionally investing themselves into situations where the types of result that they are looking for are not in the people where they're investing their energy. If I went to person X because I needed help with my anxiety, but person X doesn't know how to do that, then it's not their fault. They're going to try and invest because they love and support me in the best way, but they don't have the answers. I need to surround myself with people who do have answers in that area. Or if it's in my physical body, there's no point me going to see Uncle Steve, whoever Uncle Steve is, by the way, if he hasn't mastered his physical body, because he's not going to give me the results that I'm after because he hasn't got the results himself. There's no point me going to see Auntie Sandra, whoever Auntie Sandra is, by the way, about, something with my business, because she might not have results in that area. And as much as I value her and I love her as my auntie, if she can't give me the guidance and the advice based on her results, why would I go to that area? This is why it's important to become aware of who we are spending our emotional time with. Because these are the two biggest traps that I see within people. Number one, they're around a certain energy, which isn't great, i.e. you want a certain outcome and the energy that you're around is around people who want to go to the quote unquote fast food restaurant all the time. And two, they are going to the avenues that they've always known, which are great, and I'm not neglecting this, so this is why I don't want to blur the lines. I'm never neglecting that, but ultimately we want to surround ourselves with people who have results in that area. I love my parents. I absolutely love my parents. I am planning to swim the English Channel. Am I going to go to them for advice? No. Why? Because they don't have results in the area that I want. Are they going to support me? Of course they are. I'd like to think they would. Are they going to support me? Yes, they're going to be there for me. They're going to do this for me. They're going to do that for me. Of course they are. I wouldn't change that. I'm not going to go to them for the specific results that I want. They're not going to be in my close mastermind alliance, so to speak, when it comes to advice on actually swimming the English Channel. Because I need people who are going to be in that environment, who I can emotionally invest that time into because they have the results I want, i.e. people who have already done it, i.e. swim instructors, i.e. people who have mentally been in that place. This is the type of area where I'm talking. Because when you can do that, and when you can create that in your life, you'll start to see you create different mastermind alliances depending on the successes and areas of your life that you want to have at any given time. If you want success in your physical body, you'll invest more emotional time and effort spending time with Terry and Tina over there. But if you want, results in your emotions, you'll spend more time over here with Tom and with Tracy. So many names today. Why? Because you start to realise that each mastermind alliance is better for you to place your emotions into, because that's where you're going to get the most feedback from. That's where you're going to get the most enlightenment from. Instead of me just throwing a blanket over the whole thing and saying I only go to person X for all of my issues, no matter what it may be. Because it's so important that for your growth, for your understanding, for your progress, for your elevation of your mind, life and emotions, you understand where you're placing that emotional energy, your emotional time, your emotional effort.